First Baptist Bridgehampton, Bridge Nation, Happy New Year. Well, happy almost New Year. Happy New Year's Eve. We are just hours away from a brand new year, and I can't tell you how excited I am about how God has blessed us, how God has kept us. I don't know what this year held for you, whether it was a year of promise fulfilled or pain, but I do know that God was in it. And so today I just wanted to come to you and give you a few words of encouragement before we enter into the new year, something for you to think about, something for you to feast on as we move into 2023. I want you to come with me to the Gospel of Luke. The Gospel of Luke, my favorite gospel, chapter 13, and we're going to be looking at verses 6 through 9. And it reads this way. Then he told this parable. A man had a fig tree growing in his vineyard, and he went to look for fruit on it, but did not find any. So he said to the man who took care of the vineyard, for 3 years now, I've been coming to look for fruit on this fig tree and haven't found any. Cut it down. Why should it use up the soil? Sir, the man replied, leave it alone for 1 more year, and I'll dig around it and fertilize it. If it bears fruit next year, fine. If not, then cut it down. Sir, the man replied, leave it alone for 1 more year, and I'll dig around it and fertilize it. The movie Dead Poets Society is about a controversial English teacher. You guys may remember the movie. John Keating, who shakes up a New England prep school for boys in the 1950s. While at Welton Academy, Keating, played by the ever funny and amazing Robin Williams, introduces his students to classic poets, teaching them to look at life from new vantage points instead of simply relying on knowledge that has been passed down to them. Inspired by their mentor's example, the boys resurrect a society of dead poets that Keating established while he was a student at Welton. And because of the club, a particularly shy student finds the courage to express himself poetically. Another student begins acting despite his father's disapproval. And on the first day of school, Mr. Keating walks into his class whistling Tchaikovsky's 1812 Overture. And at once, the students recognize that he's unlike any other teacher they've had at Welton. And he motions to them one day to follow him out into the hall, where they stand in front of the school's trophy case. And a student reads aloud a famous poem about the passage of time, which Keating proceeds to interpret. Keating says, "We are food for worms, lads. Believe it or not, each and every one of us in this room is one day going to stop breathing, turn cold, and die." Motioning them to draw near to the display of aged photographs, he continues, "I'd like you to step forward over here and peruse some of the faces from the past. You've walked past them many times, but I don't really think you've ever looked at them. They're not different from you, are they? Same haircuts, full of hormones, just like you. Invincible, just like you feel. The world is their oyster. They believe they're destined for great things. Their eyes are full of hope, just like you. Did they wait till it was too late to make something from their lives, even one iota of what they were capable? Because you see, gentlemen, these boys are now fertilizing daffodils." He says, if you listen real close, you can hear them whispering their legacy to you. Go on, lean in. Do you hear it? And as the boys press their noses near the trophy case, Mr. Keating stands behind them and whispers, "Carpe diem." Seize the day. I share this story, and as I share it with you, I can't help but to consider this Luke 13 tree that stood as a reminder of what it means not to seize a season. And it's interesting when we look at this tree, because the interesting fact about this tree is it had everything it needed to grow. It had what it needed, soil and a vineyard. And it had who it needed, a dedicated vintner who saw the best in it when no one else around could. With all of these components working for it, we've got to ask the question, why wasn't it producing any fruit? And the answer here may be found in the vintner's response. Because maybe more than needing soil, or more than needing a dedicated gardener, maybe what it needed in this season was just a bit more time. Who am I talking to today? You've been planted, you've been rooted, you've got everything you need to succeed. And maybe you're asking right now as we stand on the cusp of 2023, what I really need is just a little more time. I wanted you to consider where you were 1 year ago as you jotted in your journal all your goals and aspirations for 2022. And while some of them may have come to pass, maybe there's that one objective that still remains elusive. Perhaps you feel like this fig tree, you're in the right place, surrounded by the right people, and yet your inability to produce results on you being passed up, passed over, and passed by. If that's you on this New Year's Eve, the veritable vintner we know as Jesus is saying to you today, guess what? There's still more time. You've got one more year. Now, don't misinterpret what I'm saying. I'm not trying to be overly spiritual or super prophetic, but perhaps 2023 is that year. Maybe 2023 is your year. Wait a minute, hold on, because somebody just took off running in their living room. Somebody just quickened in their spirit. Somebody is clapping and shouting right now, 2023 is my year. Hold on, wait a minute, you got caught up. I don't want you to miss this, because already you just started waking up all sorts of mantras and affirmations. 2023, the year for me, debt-free in 2023. Don't come for me in 2023. It's all about me in 2023. I can hear y'all now going off. And don't misinterpret what I'm saying. That's great. But here's the problem with that. All too often we declare the resolution with little regard for the solution. I'm going to say that one more time. Often we get so hyped about our resolution that we fail to consider the solution. Watch the text in verse 8. He says, "Sir," the man replied, "leave it alone for one more year." What are you saying, Pastor Tish? I'm saying that the key to your growth is not about the length of the year. It's about what you do in that year. He says, leave it alone for one more year and I'll dig around it and fertilize it. In other words, I'm saying to you today, it's not the length of time, it's the work that you do in that time, because what? Faith without works is dead. I'll dig around it and I'll fertilize it. In other words, you got to dig it and dung it. Yeah. See, when we dig around something, it simply means that we need to work with what we've been given. The soil that this tree has been planted in over time likely has become hard and compacted, where not only is it not getting enough air in, there's some things probably contaminating that soil that need to come out. God is saying to you today on the cusp of this new year, can you dig it? Can you dig around the hard places that got you compacted? Can you dig around the soil that is no longer serving you well? Can you dig it? But you can't just dig it. You've also got to dung it. And dunging means you need to fertilize what you've been given by adding value to it. One theologian says it this way: dunging is to dung a tree, to add fertilizer to it. And you all know that dung is manure. It's a type of fertilizer. It's organic. It's alive. It's not watered down. It's not genetically engineered. It is good. It is rich. It is hot. It is pure manure. And the dictionary defines it as fertilizer. To make something fertile, to make it fruitful or productive, sometimes you've got to dung it. Fertilizer is not just dung, it's any material put on soil to improve the quality or the quantity of the plant growth. In other words, you can't just dig up the soil, you've got to dung it too, meaning what are you adding valuable to your life? It's not just about lifting, it's not just about uncompacting all of that soil. Now you've got to add something to it. Who's adding value to your life? What's adding value to your life? You've been in the same place for over 3 years. God would have me to tell you it's time to dig it and dung it. But here's what I know for sure. Fertilizing a tree gives it an extra boost. It gives it an extra shot in the arm. And when you fertilize, when you add value to your life by making wisdom-filled decisions, by making great connections, guess what? You'll get an extra boost too. But here's another thing. The process of digging and dugging also requires one to get on their knees. You see, it doesn't matter how much you dig. It doesn't matter how much you dung if you don't get delivered. If you don't make your requests known to God, if you don't pray, if you don't fast, if you don't seek God for the things that you need, all your digging and dunging is for naught. The reason that tree survived, and while the text is inconclusive, I believe it did produce fruit that next year, was because it had a gardener who cared about it. A gardener who had enough sense enough to say, wait a minute, I see something here. And let's not give up on it just yet. I want you to know that Jesus is saying the same thing to you. On your job, wait a minute. I see something here. Don't quit just yet. In your marriage, wait a minute. There's still something here. Keep digging and dunging. Don't get a divorce just yet. With your children, wait a minute. There's a wealth of potential in them. Don't give up on them just yet. 2023 could, in fact, be your year. But I want to remind you of this. God did not call you to use up space. God called you to take up space. Carpe diem. Seize the day, and Happy New Year.